We're in progress. We're live on Play It Forward with today we have Josephine Landertinger Forero. Thank you, Josephine, for being very kind. Writer, director, filmmaker. The short film we'll be talking about today is El Primer Baile.
Very well, yeah. The first
Ah,
dance.
the first dance. Josephine, thanks for being on the show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I also want to thank my colleague Louise because without her, I wouldn't be here. Make sure
Louisa
to check out
Briggs
her.
Anderson. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure to check out her episode. So, yeah, El Primer Baile. You want to know what it's about, I guess.
Well, you can either introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, introduce and or the film, whatever you'd like.
Yeah, maybe both. It makes sense. It goes
Sounds
like
good.
hand. So,
Yes.
yeah, my name is due to my binationality. So my father was Austrian. He passed away already. My mother is Colombian. And she thought Josephine would be a nice name. So I ended up with this first name. And yeah, I kind of identify myself as being a Colombian filmmaker because that's where my first, stories came from or were born. And also, it has been the country that has supported me most with my filmmaking. Um, but yeah, I live in Barcelona. I've been living here for 4 years now, from Bogota to Barcelona. Previously, I had a couple of migrations already, so I've lived in 5 different countries up to now. And identity, migration, sense of belonging are big subjects also in my previous films and in my upcoming films I'm working on right now. And El Primer Baile, the first dance, is an important film for me because I did it while I was pregnant with my second child.
Wow.
So for all of you women out there listening, everything is possible. It's just, a question of mindset. And that's why it's important for me. Also, because I was fulfilling like a kind of dream I always had, which was going to film school. And I was, already in my 30 somethings pregnant, and I went to film school and did this short film. So yeah, I studied film at university in Berlin, but it was not a film school. It was like, film studies, so very academic.
Yeah.
And actually, I just figured it out a few years ago that I'm an artist. So I love to think, and I'm like very, I love philosophy and thinking about things and reflecting about, how our society works. But if I would have to go back, a couple of years, I would have gone to film school, like straightforward. The thing was that when I applied, I was 18, and the film school I applied to in Germany, in Berlin, would only take people from 22 years onwards. So I ended up in university. But so I had this thing, in me always like, I didn't do what I really wanted to do, which was go to film school. So in Bogota, at that time, there was this amazing film school. It's called Congo Film School. And it's an amazing film school because the person who opened this film school owns the biggest rental company in the country. And so the film school is basically like across the street of this renting company, or at the side. It's like the same compound, the same buildings. So, you get to experiment with really high-end equipment, which is, top notch. And so I said to myself, okay, I want to do a short film. Like, I want to come out of this film school. It was a short course, so it wasn't like, years that I was there. Also because I was working, I have a production company in Bogota. And but I wanted to do it. I wanted to do like a fiction short film. and my previous films had been documentaries, but my passion was always to do fiction. So I had to write a script that was easy to shoot and that I could shoot in one location. And I used to dance a lot, and I always had this thing of that, I really love the film Pina from Wim Wenders. I don't know if you've seen it.
No.
An amazing film about this amazing German choreographer, Pina Bausch. If you're not familiar with Pina Bausch, check her out. And Pina is such a great dance film, and I wanted to honor this film and also just try something out myself. And so I did like a casting with dancers, and I found this amazing company that was willing to work with me. And the actress, she's so amazing. She was like the perfect cast for the film. And so we did it. We shot this film in one day. So the film is actually shot in one day, and like in one very, very, very long day, but in one day. And yeah, it was like amazing just to see, you have an idea, you have a goal, and you can do it, and you can actually make it. And then the film ended up being screened at WeCam Fest. So it's the first film festival in Colombia that has a focus on disabilities, which is a part of the film. So this subject is a part of the film. And it got an honorable jury mention, which made me very proud. And also the film screened in cinemas, because at that time in Colombia, you had like a scheme where you could apply to a kind of they would like buy your short film if it had like certain quality, and if it was like if it was able to be seen also by families, and they would screen it in cinemas, like in commercial cinemas, before feature films. So you had like this program that was amazing. It stopped working, unfortunately. But I was lucky to be there at that time, where it was still active. So that's a bit about this film.
Well, it sounds like you've had, a very rich experience and journey into the world of being a filmmaker and filmmaking. And, the identity piece that you mentioned earlier is really something I want to focus on a little bit. And, in relation to your film, and the first question to play it forward is, what is it that lived inside of you in terms of a kernel, a seed, a pre-idea, pre-thought that said, hey, I want to tackle this subject? And the subject in this film, as I saw it, is really boils down to a sense of how we limit ourselves as individuals, irrespective of whether or not, there's a physical disability or a psychological disability. How is it that we put on these artificial limitations upon ourselves, and how do we get over them? So this self-limiting beliefs and the courage that it takes to respond to them. So that, if you agree, if that's really the seed, what is it in your personal experience that said, okay, I got to do this. I've got to explore this.
Yeah, I think it's a good question. Why should I explore that? I don't know. Sometimes, you just feel like an urge to talk about these things. Also, in this specific case, what I found was interesting was that I wanted to explore like also movement and just how it might feel not to be able to move when you're so fascinated by movement. But then also, as you already said, like overcoming things we think, like we put into our mind and saying, I can't do it. And then you say, okay, I can do it. And so this dream scene is so important in this film, because it's actually kind of a nightmare, and without a lot of spoilers, And yeah, I use it as kind of, a metaphor of what's going on in the character's inner world. And then, he has this dream and says, okay, I need to talk to this person. I need to overcome, my own fear. And it's nice that you also read it this way and could relate to the film in this way.
Thank you. It's so important, to, all these films, they create a landscape for us to look into and understand others better and understand ourselves better. I mean, that is essentially the work of art, and to take us on this kind of transcendental or transcendent journey. So, in terms of the meaning of the film, whether you want to talk about it as a writer, as a creator, or as a viewer, what do you take away from it?
Well, for me, my takeaway is, of course, as I mentioned before, when I think of this film, I think of like my whole personal experience behind it. And if I see like only the film, for me, it's like a very aesthetical film. And yeah, I don't know, I take away like also maybe overcoming a challenge or overcoming, my inner little devils. And as I told you, I always had this thing of I want to do, a fiction short film that looks really nice. And I had this opportunity at film school. And the thing was that I was enrolled in a course where you supposedly were not able to do a short film because it was a shorter course than people doing like the year-long course. But I like pitched my idea to the director and told him, please, I really want to do this. I know we can do it. What do you think? And he was like, okay, let's do it. And yeah, so I think that would be like my takeaway.
Well, it's the idea is I was very moved by the piece, and it's a very short piece, and it's a well-formed idea. And I think, exploring movement and freedom and limitations is certainly within the narrative, and you explore limitations through both physical restrictions and mental restrictions. And in terms of overcoming those challenges, which is, presumably what we all want to do. How do we do that? Where do we start?
I guess you have to start by talking a lot to yourself. And, I think often we are our worst enemies. I've learned a lot about, self-compassion in the last years because I don't know, maybe because, growing up, my parents always wanted like very high standards, like you need to be excellent at school, like good is not good enough. Let's like, be excellent. And so I have this thing also with myself, I have to be like number one and do this and do that. And I think that when learn to talk to yourself and to be gentler to yourself, that's, I think, how you can end up like overcoming your own limiting beliefs about yourself. Does that make sense?
Oh, perfectly. It's clear as day. I mean, I think, it's so important for us to recognize that, for us to talk about it. And, what I often feel in the course of my life is, you're parenting yourself, you're reparenting yourself. And there's that inner child, that young person, young adult, whatever it might be, all the above, that needs that reparenting that, for whatever reason you didn't get, through fault or no fault of, your caretakers, their own limiting beliefs, at some point that kind of legacy needs to be changed. And the only way to do that is by communicating and parenting yourself. And that's okay to do. It's
Yeah,
normal, it's human, it's healthy.
totally agreed.
Last question. How have you been changed as a person since making I believe the first dance. I was going to say my first dance, but the first dance.
Oh, that's a big question because I was a mom afterwards for the second time, which was quite hard. I guess, I mean, we would need like another interview session to talk about gender equality in film and mothers in the film industry, because it's a hard one. I mean, with one kid, it was hard, but I could do fine. And with two, it's just another world. And I also moved. So we moved to Barcelona when our kids were 6 months and 2.5 years old, which is like babies, basically. So I was like, mother, migrant woman in the film industry. Yeah, so it has been hard. I must confess, it has been hard last 4 or 5 years, but then again, I'm still here. I'm doing it as best as I can in my own pace, which I also have to talk to myself very often and say it's okay, because sometimes I like, I'm 40 years old. And I was just talking to my partner the other day because I was like, when I was 20, I would say like, oh my God, 40 years old, you're like so old. So when I'm 40, I'll have like 10 feature films. I'll be, living in Los Angeles and maybe I already won an Oscar. And I would really talk to myself that way, as 20-something-year-old. And I'm like, okay, I have 2 feature films. Okay, they were nominated by the Colombian Film Prize. That's pretty cool, actually. And now my 3rd film is in development. We already got some funding. We got like many no's now. Like the Colombian Film Fund said no to co-production, and here in Barcelona as well. So just these days I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? But somehow I end up doing the films. And my urge for telling these type of stories is just too big. As I don't know, I think I'm not able to not to start a film and then just leave it there. So yeah, so that's pretty much what has happened since.
Well, it sounds like a key lesson is
time.
doing it at your own pace. And not tripping over your own feet, running faster than you can, which is something that I think every filmmaker, every person with a great ambition knows the pitfall of that at one point or another. There is time for everything. Josephine Landertinger Forero, please do it yourself so I don't butcher it.
Josephine Landertinger Forero. It was actually
I didn't do too bad. It was at my own pace.
Yeah.
Writer, director, filmmaker. The film is The First Dance. We will post you and the relevant related work you'd like us to post on this post, and would love to speak to you again. Congratulations with all your hard work, and may it continue to be a liberation of your soul and your spirit and your light. Thank you for sharing that with us today. We're out on Play It Forward. Till next time.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye. And greetings to your daughter, I believe. Amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, Naomi, who steals the show, whether she likes it or not, or I like it or not. Thank you, Josephine. Don't go away, okay?